Hola, it's Beto here, your Daily Divinity Coach, here for my monthly mailbag number 7. I'm going to go ahead and tag a few friends and then introduce myself. If you've already heard my introduction, please feel free to go ahead and forward a couple minutes if you're watching the recorded video. So again, I'm just tagging some friends here so we can get a nice audience for today's show. So again, just tagging some friends and then we'll go ahead and get started soon here. So just seeing who's out there who can get live here with us, get an audience going for this episode. So again, just tagging a few friends here, and then we'll get started. So just seeing who's out there who might want to join us, and letting them know that we're live. I think that's good. Maybe anybody else? All right, I think that's good. So we'll go ahead and stop there. All right, Tony. Excellent. Tony, if you can throw something up in the air or make some sort of gesture, if you're physically able to let me know that my sound is working, that would be greatly appreciated. Oh, hold on. My sound probably isn't working because I didn't have it connected. So, good morning, Michelle. There. Can you hear me now, Michelle or Tony or the Emalu? Shout out. Shout out to the Emalu. Can you hear me? All good. Awesome. Perfect. So, excellent. So my sound's working. So now I can take off my reading glasses. Again, I'm going to give a brief introduction while we allow other folk to join. My name is Beto. I'm your daily divinity coach. Awesome. I'm seeing all these hearts and thumbs. Yeah, my sound's working. Yay. So again, Beto, your daily divinity coach, here for my monthly mailbag number 7. What is my monthly mailbag if this is your first time joining one of my monthly mailbags? Well, the first Sunday of every month, I take your pre-submitted questions and I use them as content for the show. I ask you to pre-submit your questions because I like giving thoughtful responses, and some of your questions are really deep. I like, if possible, to talk about, research and, stuff like that. So I take your pre-submitted questions, I use them as content for the show, providing thoughtful responses. We got 12 questions for today's show, so really excited about that. Today's Sunday, May 2nd, 2021. If you have questions that you didn't submit, please, you can pre-submit them for the next show, next month. You can do that via my website, dailydivinitycoach.com. You can instant message me, direct message me. If you have my phone number, you can text message me. I love getting these questions, and I need them for this show. So please, if you have a question, go ahead and submit it. I would be grateful and appreciative. A little bit about myself, again, while we're giving people time to join. I'm Beto. Everybody called me Beto. I was raised by a mother from the age of 10 who taught me how to, scientific prayer, the law of attraction, speaking things into existence. And then I went to seminary as a young adult, which is why I'm out here in Boston now. I'm originally from California, from San Francisco, from Aztlan, but out here in Boston now, where I attended graduate school, seminary, and studied social justice and liberation theology from the likes of Cornel West and whatnot. I also learned my oral history of the Mexica Azteca from El Maestro Andres Segura. What else about me? So I've had great teachers, and this is my opportunity to give back. And so I'm grateful that you all watch these shows. I also write posts. I call them Daily Divinity Coach, and they're about a paragraph long. They're written posts I put up every day during the week, and on the weekends I'm here. I also have a collaborator, Dr. Michelle Yanez, and we do a Saturday show. We did 4 Saturdays in a row, and we took a little break, a hiatus, to strategize and figure out how we can make we wanted a concept that was sustainable and that would go on over time. So really excited. We came up with what we think is a very strong concept, and we're going to start those Saturday shows live again next Saturday. What else? I produce bracelets. If you haven't received your rubber bracelets yet, please reach out. I got a new set. There's a red one that reads Limitless, a green one that reads Liberated, and a beige one that reads ageless. They're very colorful. People love them. I've sent out a lot. I sent out like 40 yesterday. So the busy Saturday. I love giving them away. I produce them for free. Or excuse me, I don't produce them for free. I produce them. I give them away for free. Free shipping always in the U.S. and now to Europe and North America through the end of June. So please reach out if you haven't reached them. IM me, DM me, text me, or visit my website and submit an order for bracelets. I still have some of the originals as well. Enough with the introduction. Let's get going with the show, the content of the show. So, first question, Beto, when is your next live show with Dr. Michelle Yanez? Got a lot of fans, Dr. Michelle. The next show is coming up. It's going to be next Saturday, so in 6 days. It's going to be Saturday, May 8th. It's going to be live and unscripted. And it's going to be, the title of the episode is DIY, which I learned, I didn't know. DIY, if you didn't know, like I didn't know, do it yourself. So DIY, do it yourself, Mother's Day baskets. It's going to be awesome. Very excited about this show. We have a guest. Her name is Dane Anderson. She is the founder of Celebrate States. And she's going to be helping us show the folk that watch how to do it yourself, make do-it-yourself Mother's Day baskets. But that's not all we're going to do. We're going to talk about fun stuff. It's going to be very entertaining, whether it's relationships or anti-aging or whatever else we end up talking about. We're gonna make it entertaining and fun, and you're going to laugh. So you're not going to want to miss it. If you've caught our 4 original shows, Dr. Michelle Yanez, she has a great sense of humor, and so she brings that out, and so it's very fun. So it's going to be on Facebook Live next Saturday, May 8th, starting at 12 noon. So we'll be here on Facebook Live, 12 noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and also on Instagram Live 30 minutes later. So 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on Instagram Live. Don't miss it. It's going to be awesome. Put you in the Mother's Day mood. So that's question number 1. So question number 2. Is your show, Beto, with Dr. Michelle Yanez really truly unscripted? Yes, it is. It's truly unscripted, live and unscripted. And I'll give you proof. If you go back, all my recorded videos are on YouTube and also here on Facebook. If you go back and look at the episode we did on LOA, Law of Attraction, and online dating, there's proof, because there's times when you see my eyes darting back and forth and I'm scratching my head, and it looks like I'm going to maybe even start sweating because I'm struggling to find an answer to Dr. Michelle's questions, because she does not prep me with her questions. She says she likes them to be organic and to be organic, my responses, and vice versa. I don't let her know, right? It wouldn't be fair if I did. I don't let her know, what my questions are going to be either. So it's awesome. It's fun. You can't miss it. It's gonna be next Saturday. All right. Question. The next question. Oh, I think I just flipped it. Okay, there it is. Beto, who said? This is a quote. I don't feel old or young. I just am. Let me say that again. I don't feel old or young. I just am. So this quote is attributed to Paul Weller. Paul Weller, the musical artist, the legend, the English legendary musical artist, Paul Weller. Back, in my teens and tweens, he was with a couple groups, the Jam and the Style Council, before launching his solo career. But Paul Weller gets it instinctively, and a lot of artists do, and that's why when I do my Sunday weekly revivals, I refer to a lot of artists, right? Musical artists, comedians, actors, actresses, visual artists, right? Painters, because they instinctively get it a lot, not all of them, but a lot of them instinctively get it, at least the ones I refer to on my shows. So he gets it. Paul Weller instinctively gets that we've been created in the image of the divine, right? To be immortal or ageless, right? Just like the divine. The divine's ageless. We don't talk about the divine like, oh, pobrecito, getting so old, the divine. No. We don't talk about she or he or the divine, regardless of whatever gender we appropriate or we think about the divine having or not having. We don't think like that, right? We don't think about age when it comes to the divine. So why do we do it to ourselves? So anyway, Paul Weller gets it. he said that quote, and it's awesome. I love it. Question number 4. Beto, what is the difference between aging less, 2 words, aging less, and being, 1 word, ageless? You got that? Difference between aging less, 2 words, and being ageless. Huge difference. Huge difference. When you say you're aging less, you're still bought into the belief system that aging is a truth, that it's inevitable. And so what you're doing is you're fighting. You're fighting against aging. That's why they call it anti-aging. Because you believe it's going to happen. You believe it's inevitable, right? You're one of those people who say, oh, we all get old, right? We all grow old and die, right? Life is short. You're believing it. But when you say you're aging less, you're fighting against it. You're putting all this energy into something, fighting something that's an untruth. But to you, it's a truth because you believe it. Whereas being ageless, right? 1 word, you believe, as I do, that aging is an untruth, that it's unnecessary, despite the facts, right? Because we know facts, right? Reality obscure the truth that we are created in the image of the divine to be immortal, to be ageless. So that's your belief system, right? That it's an untruth. So you're not fighting against something. You're not putting all this energy into fighting something that you actually believe in, right? You're flipping the script, right? You're saying, I don't believe in it, right? Despite the facts, right? Despite the reality, I don't believe in it because I know it's an untruth, right? And so what happens is when you start getting into that mindset, it gets into your core, your belief system, your brain becomes retrained. And we know it's possible, right? To retrain your brain to create new neural pathways. And I'll give you an example, scientific, right? Children with and adults too, with dyslexia. There are programs out there, reading programs. Some of them are software-based, right? Reading programs that help them retrain their brains to create new neural pathways so they can become fluent readers, right? We have people who watch the program who've worked with these reading programs, right? There are people here watching the show right now that have worked with these reading programs and seen the positive effects, seen these children and adults learn how to read, create those new neural pathways in their brain. So we know it's science. It's possible. But again, when you say you're ageless, right? You're wearing the band. You're saying, I'm going to let this get into my core, my faith, my belief system. Question number 5. Another question about ageless. Beto, when you speak of being ageless, do you mean it figuratively? No, I don't mean it figuratively. I mean it literally. I mean literally, we can de-traumatize our brains and free ourselves from the untruth of aging. I believe literally we can stop and even reverse the negative effects of aging. So not figuratively, literally. And that's a fourth world trick to say things are figurative. To take truth and say, oh, that's just figurative. That's a trick. That's a trick of the Lord's of scarcity. So we got to be aware of that. But no, not at all, because I know they're tricks. So I don't buy into them, that whole figurative thing when it comes to aging and death. And we'll talk about that a little later because a question comes up about that. So anyhow, moving on to number 6. Beto, was your mother accused of witchcraft in the 80s, right, in the 1980s, for practicing the law of attraction? Yes. I don't know if my sister's on right now on Facebook, but I do Instagram first and then I flip over to Facebook. Earlier this morning, she was on Instagram, so she was confirming this. Yes, my mother was accused of witchcraft for practicing the law of attraction in the 1980s. You got to remember, in the 1980s, the law of attraction was not mainstream like it is now. It was considered New Age, right? It's New Age. Some people even considered it witchcraft. But nonetheless, so she took heat. She took heat, but she never wavered. She got it into her core, her belief system, speaking things into existence, scientific prayer, the law of attraction, and still practices it today. And I still practice it with her because she taught me, right? What better person to have as a scientific prayer partner than my mother, because she taught it to me, right? But yes, she was accused of that. Question number 7. Beto, what makes scientific prayer scientific? This question actually came in from Laura Lee. I'm going to use a sports analogy here. So while a youth, Tiger Woods, right, the greatest golfer of his generation, I don't know if that's arguable anymore, considering how many wins he stacked up, but I guess we can say arguably, but anyhow, the greatest golfer of his generation, as a youth, as a kid, employed mental imagery, right, visualization to improve his performance. So as a youngster, he was in fact training his brain for peak performance, and that's now science. It's scientific now. It's not, new age stuff, right? Or witchcraft or whatever. No, the research, there's strong scientific basis for how and why visualization works. So there's been studies with athletes in particular. And so what they'll do is they'll study like the regions of the brain and what becomes activated and whatnot, when they're actually doing it, right? When they're actually, for example, running versus visualizing it. And it's the same regions of the brain that are activated. So there's strong scientific basis for visualization now. For what we, right, those of us who already knew this, but already believed, but some people need to see the science. So the science is there. So the way my mother and I work is that we do a ritual. We get into a state of joy and gratitude, and then we lift up a request. And then the scientific part is that once we lift up that request, we don't stop, being in that state until we get the visualization. And she's been doing it for so many decades now that she gets like visualizations like that. It takes me a little bit longer. I'm getting there though. And then so once we got the visualization, we lock it in and we keep it here. And what in our brains, and what the visualization is that we see, right, the request manifesting in the spiritual, and now it's just a matter of time before it manifests in the natural world, right, here on earth. And we don't say the request again, because then that would mean like, that would indicate that we're lacking faith that it's going to happen. No, we lock in the visualization and we keep it there. So that's the scientific part. And as you do it more and more, just again, it becomes part of your faith and belief system. You train your brain to work like that. So great question. Question number 8. I really like this question. Beto, who do you learn from? Who do you follow? So I'm going to use another example, another sports analogy. I wish I had like an acting analogy or some sort of art analogy. But anyhow, it's another sport analogy. So the other day, my son came home from his first day of high school rugby practices. He started at the age of 10. I started him in rugby. He's a high schooler now. He's actually a sophomore. The reason why this was his first day this year of rugby practice was because last year the rugby was suspended because of COVID. There was no rugby. So as a sophomore, he's now in his first year of high school rugby. So he comes home after his first practice and he says, Dad, he says, I was trying to help the new kids, new to the sport. I was trying to help them, teach them how to throw the rugby ball properly. He said, Dad, I realized I don't know how to teach them. He said, it was a challenge for him, right? It was a challenge. He said, because Dad, I don't remember how I was taught. Because he was taught as a kid, right? I don't remember how I was taught. He said, I don't remember doing it wrong. I always remember doing it right. And so it's an opportunity for leadership, right? That's what I explained to him. It's an opportunity for leadership, a new skill set, learning how to teach. But I did ask, what did you do? He said, well, I referred them to the coach until I can learn how to teach them, because right now I don't know. And so, he said he was, working with the coach, following what he was doing and learning from him how to teach, because he truly did not know how to teach it because it's just natural for him, right? He's been doing it as a kid. So I say that to say this, that I learned from you all. I follow you all. That's who I follow. You follow me, I follow you. I learned from you, number one, from your questions, but also from your posts, because it makes me think. It makes me think, how do I teach what I've always known, right? Since what I was brought up on from a kid. What comes natural to me. How do I teach this? So your questions is like my number one source. But I also look at your posts, because sometimes, people post like, one of my pet peeves, right? Life is short. I don't say that. I say life is long. But, instead of saying, that's wrong, no, I think, right? What's a new way I can teach folk to say life is long versus life is short, right? Is there a quote from a musical icon, right? Like Paul Weller? Is there an example in pop culture? Is there, another way, like a excerpt from ancient text that'll resonate with people, right? To teach them what, I was taught as a kid. So that's how I do it. I learn from you all. I follow you all. Question number 9. Awesome question. And funny. Beto, when you say time travels in both directions, right? I say time travels in both directions, positive and negative. Are you referring, and that's scientific and it's also theological, or theologically correct, are you referring to time travel? No, I'm not referring to, for example, the 1980s movie franchise, Back to the Future. Remember Michael J. Fox? Huge Hollywood success, right? The franchise, No, I'm not referring to Back to the Future, or even that new Netflix movie. I don't know if you've seen the new release on Netflix, Synchronic, I believe it is Synchronic, with actor Anthony Mackie. Very interesting movie. No, I'm not referring to time travel. No, when I talk about, time moving, forwards and backwards, negative and positive, again, which is scientific and theologically correct, I am referring to aging, right? Stopping or reversing the aging process. That's what I'm referring to. But a great question. No, I'm not into the time travel thing. Question number 10. Beto, is fifth world prophecy related to the book of Revelation? No. When I talk about fifth world prophecy, I'm not talking about the book of Revelation in the Bible. I'm referring to the ancient wisdom of the Hopi Maya. And you can refer to, if you go through my library of episodes, you can refer to episode number 24. I did a whole 30-minute episode just on the fifth world prophecy and whatnot. But quickly, the third world, per what we know, oral history, and now written history, the third world was destroyed by flood and water. The fourth world, also known as world complete, will not be destroyed by any natural disaster. Rather, it is going to end by spiritual revolution. So we're right now in an in-between time. The fourth world is ending and the fifth world is emerging. The fourth world will end, again, not by natural disaster, but by spiritual revolution. So the great teacher taught that the meek, or better translated, the righteous, will inherit the earth. Who are the righteous? The righteous are those that champion the least, what the great teacher called the least of these, are the poor, the oppressed. So there's nothing to fear, because I have read the book of Revelation, the Bible. I don't know if you have, but it can be scary, especially when I read it as a kid. It's like, whoa, are you kidding me? But so there's nothing to fear of fifth world prophecy. It's not all scary like the book of Revelation. It's actually something to look forward to. It's going to be awesome. The only caveat is if you're invested in fourth world scarcity, you're invested in fourth world scarcity, one of the lords of scarcity. That's how you've created your empire, by sustaining the untruth of scarcity. Then, you're liable to end up having to give up a lot because you're not going to be one that inherits the earth unless you start tuning into my shows and start getting right? You start getting righteous. And you don't have to tune into my shows to get righteous, but probably help if you are a Lord of Scarcity. And I'll give you my time. I don't mind giving, free 45 minutes for anybody, Lord of Scarcity, although none of them have called, but I would. So anyhow, so there's nothing to fear. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. Things are going to change, and yeah, get righteous. Question number 11. Beto, what is the relation between manifesting immortality and the rapture? Okay, so the word rapture comes from the Greek word harpazo, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I'm not fluent in Greek, but Harpazo, harpazo, which means to snatch away or to seize. So in the Bible, it is used, the rapture, as a way to explain people being snatched up into the air, right? People rising up to heaven in their physical bodies. So there's a school of thought, a school of belief that there's going to be a significant part of the human population that are believers in the great teacher that are going to rise up all at the same time. It's going to be an event, a one-time event, and they call it the rapture, and they're going to rise up to heaven alive in their physical bodies. I'm not one of those people that believe in a one-time event. Rather, because I know my oral history, my oral prophecy, which again is now written, fifth world prophecy, that it's just going to become a norm in the fifth world. As the fifth world emerges and our brains become traumatized, right? And we're able to fully live into the truths that aging and physical death are untruths, right? They're not necessary. That more and more people, we're going to live longer, right? I'm claiming 800 years. We're going to live longer. And then when we're ready, we're going to rise in our physical bodies up to heaven alive, just as the great teacher did, and others before him. He wasn't the only one in the fourth world that did that. Elijah did, and others have done that. So it's just going to become the norm in the fifth world. That's what I believe. I don't believe it's going to be a one-time event and then all this chaos happens, or the chaos happens before. I don't know. It's really complex the way the rapture's taught in certain sects. But anyhow, I know that when they talk about it, it's a one-time event, but not me. So the next question, and again, nothing to fear. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. Question 12. You're going to want to be around, so get the bracelet, ageless. You're going to want to be around for this stuff. Question number 12. Beto, why does the Chicano, Latinx community lack true leadership at the national level, outside, and then I added, or inside, mainstream politics? Where is the fresh leadership, the new Dolores Huerta? And this is not word by word. I kind of condensed this question. It comes from my brother from another mother, very faithful watcher of these shows, Tony Torres. So Tony and all watching, there are think tanks, and you know this. There are think tanks, right? There are initiatives, for example, at universities that study this question. There's professionals on this question, and but that doesn't mean I'm not going to answer the question, because if you send in a question, I'm going to answer it. Although I would say that I'm not a professional on this question. I have looked at it. I have done a bit of study and research on this. So here I go. Here's my best shot at it. So one might say that we're challenged, right? Our community is challenged because of the diversity within the community. So, for example, the Cuban Americans in Florida, 56% voted for Trump in this past election in 2020. 56% of Cuban Americans in Florida voted for Trump, despite Trump having harsh words and harsh policies, right, that negatively impacted our community. They still went that way. So you got, and they weren't the only ones. I mean, there's some hardcore anti-abortionists who voted for Trump too, who are in a part of our community, despite all the calamity he caused our community, and we're still unwinding a lot of that stuff, right now. So there's that, right? There's that. Also, there's the identity thing, right? Those of us who identify as Chicano or Chicana, we identify with our indigenous roots, right? We know we're indigenous. But then you have in the same community those who call themselves Hispanic because they want to highlight, their European ancestry, right, or their Spanish ancestry. Sometimes even denying that they're indigenous. You have that, right? So that's a huge difference, right? So we're talking about huge differences here. Then you have the language thing, right? So you have those who are monolingual Spanish speakers. They only speak Spanish. You have monolingual English speakers. They only speak English. You have folk that are perfectly bilingual, and you have everything in between, right? Some that are, started their lives speaking Spanish, but learned English, but still favor Spanish. Those who are native English speakers, but speak some Spanish, but feel more comfortable in English. Those that speak perfect both, but struggle with reading Spanish, but they can read English. I mean, you got everything, right? So there's these big, big diversity, right? And then there's strategy, and you're gonna understand this because you were there. So when I was organizing youth, right, in our community, we used a strategy of teaching the youth that we're all leaders. There is no one leader, right? There's no Messiah figure. We're all leaders. And it was a strategy because we knew that those who'd want to stop or halt or slow or break up our movement would use a leader and try and take that leader out in whatever means that they had at their disposal. Because that's what they did, for example, with the Black Panthers, right? They took out the leaders. So we would purposely, as a strategy, to teach the young people we're all leaders. There's no one leader, and it worked. I mean, we saw it manifest because when we were there at one of the protests, the police officers showed up. Right, the PD showed up, and the first question they asked, right, the senior police officer on the scene showed up, and the first question he asked was, "Who's the leader? Where's your leader? I want to talk to your leader." And the high school kids, right? There's more high school kids than us organizers. There's only a handful of organizers. There's a lot of high school kids there. I don't recall the exact number, but somewhere between like 50 and 100. And the high school kids all at once said, "We're all leaders." And the PD, they were like mind blown, right? What? You're all leaders? I mean, it just totally diffused the situation. They didn't know where to go with that, right? They're not used to that answer, right? And they weren't aware of our strategy. So it worked, right? They couldn't go after one person and just arrest that one person and then eventually, take people and, break up the movement or at least slow it down or whatnot. It wasn't possible because, the answer was we're all leaders. They could, that was our strategy. So anyhow, so there's a lot of complexities, right? A lot of complexities when you talk about a leader like a Cesar Chavez or a Dolores Huerta rising up. But having said all of that, I mean, there are, figures out there, right? Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? Better known as AOC, or more commonly known as AOC. She's the U.S. rep for New York's 14th Congressional District, so she serves part of the Bronx and part of Queens. She's out there doing her thing, right, at a national level. There's Julian Castro, right, former mayor of San Antonio, who was part of President Obama's cabinet, who ran for president recently, right, as the Democratic nominee. He didn't get it, obviously. Joe Biden did. But Beto O'Rourke, right, mi tocayo, my namesake, also ran to be the nominee for the Democratic Party in the 2020 election. Again, Beto didn't win. But he did run. He was the former Texas U.S. rep for the 16th Congressional District there in Texas. Supreme Court Justice, right? Sotomayor, she's a national figure. So there's national figures out there, but I totally understand your question. Like, where is that, that leader, that real grassroots leader that, speaks like we do, thinks like we do, dresses like we do, talks like we do, who, has that, grassroots support. So having said everything that I said and trying to address the answer to that question, I'm going to end with this, is that my collaborator, Dr. Michelle Yanez, I don't live in California anymore. I've been, out here in Boston for 12 years. So she's in the heart of it, right? I mean, she's, from LA, born, raised, and still there. She ran for elected office. So we're going to address this question on one of our Saturday shows. We're going to find the right person or persons to come on the show as a guest. And we're going to work through this question and talk about it. And who knows, maybe it'll be Dr. Michelle Yanez that rises up as that national leader. But anyhow, we're gonna work on this question because I love it, and it's a question that warrants more work. So I'm going to go ahead and end now, as is become my custom. I went over time, but I think you all can appreciate that. We needed to get through these 12 questions because they're awesome. They're awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and end. I am going to post the recorded video. So if you missed any part of this episode, you can watch the recorded video. I will be back live next Sunday and Saturday. So don't miss that Saturday show, May 8th. DIY, do-it-yourself Mother's Day baskets. And I'll be back next Sunday with the Sunday Weekly Revival. I'm so grateful for all of your support, for watching the show, for those that have requested bracelets, just all the support. I really appreciate it because, again, as you know, I'm here because I've had great teachers in my life and I listened to them at the beginning of the show and I want to give back. This is me giving back. So again, very grateful for you, and may you have a blessed rest of your day or evening wherever you may be. Ciao. Bye.